several children would look after me well. Of course, with time I had understood my beloved mother's situation and the wisdom of what she had done back then. But could I shake off the feeling of abandonment imprinted on my young soul? No. I felt a similar tinge of desertion when my marriage failed. I had tried my best to make it work, and its collapse weighed heavily on my soul. But we were just two very different people, not meant to be with each other. Why did I always end up choosing the wrong guy? I fretted over what the world would say, that I could not even handle a marriage well. The fear of being abandoned had chased me all my life. This fear, however, was unlike anything I had experienced before. It was the fear of being abandoned by life itself. Chapter 1. That sinking feeling. Uncertainty is life's way of saying that there are only a few things you can control. Anonymous. 10 December 2012. It was a cold winter morning at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. I remember how the frost settled on the window panes, blocking my view of what I imagined must be a winter wonderland. Snowflakes fell gently on the barren trees, covering them protectively like a soft eider down, and lulled them to sleep until they were ready to bloom again. Christmas was just around the corner. I imagined children laughing and running in the squishy undergrowth, families decorating their Christmas trees with fairy lights, lovers snuggling up to each other with renewed promises. It was the season of love and newness. The stark contrast of my situation hit me like a blow. I was alone in my room at the hospital, feeling empty and broken. From the high life of a Bollywood star, I had suddenly been reduced to a patient battling for life. Death was staring me in the face. Was I going to be just another statistic? "I don't want to die," I sobbed out to the pristine white ceiling, but it just stared back at me. Yet again, my heart became a fierce battleground for life and death. Optimism and despair. The endless tug-of-war kept playing out in my mind. "You, Manisha, are going to live through this," hope reassured me. "But you are BRCA1 positive and have stage 3 ovarian cancer," death hissed back. "There is a 44% survival rate in such cases," hope soothed me. "There is a 56% chance of you dying," death jeered back. I shut my eyes to let the voices fade away. It was comforting to sink into nothingness. Whenever I needed comfort, my heart would fly to the visually stunning images of my country, Nepal. I found myself wanting to soak in the majesty of the snow-covered peaks of the Himalayas. I remembered the moments of perfect bliss on watching the orange and pink glow of the fading sun splashing them with color before they were transformed into torches of fire. And then the sadness of the fading embers. I found myself ambling into Kathmandu's quaint lanes, my nose assailed by the strong concoction of pungent, musty, fetid, and cloyingly sweet smells of hashish, fish, vegetables, and spices. The exotic smell of jimbu, the high-altitude herb that dominates the famous Asan market, teased my senses. I elbowed my way through the narrow streets lined with palaces, temples, shrines, stupas, and pagodas, structures that stand testimony to Nepal's rich heritage of art, culture, and its ancient history. My eyes felt dazzled by the riot of reds, oranges, pale goldens, and deep browns. The fragrance of the magnolia flower teased my senses. I felt wrapped in the memory of a favorite childhood smell, that of lavender and honey. My eyes swept through Nepal's endless lush greenery that I enjoyed during my Shivpuri and other treks on the outskirts of Kathmandu.